My name is Diane Hammerhuse. I'm at the Museum of Contemporary Art London MOCA Gallery, speaking to Ram Shergill, who is showing his exhibition Posthuman Bodying, the Birth of a Critical Posthuman Practice. Ram Shergill is a highly acclaimed artist and photographer who is now in his third year of his PhD research at University College London, the Bartlett School of Architecture, under the supervision of Marcus Cruz, Professor of Innovative Environments, and Brenda Parker, Associate Professor of Sustainable Bioprocess Design at the Department of Biochemical Engineering at University College London. Hi Ram.
Hi Diane.
So first of all, would you like to introduce us to the exhibition in a couple of sentences, please?
So the exhibition is an exploration into my research at University College London, where I'm looking at the critical posthuman carapace, which simply means I'm looking at ways of how we can live with the ecological environment and how we can collaborate together for better futures for human and non-human species.
Lovely. And how did the collaboration between yourself and MOCA Gallery come about in the first place?
They contacted me, MOCA, the curators, Michael Petrie and Roberta Ekholm, and they asked if I would like to show an exhibition here at MOCA Gallery, and I had a conversation with them in a lovely lunch, and we discussed, how do we go forward, and then I told them about my research at University College London and bioregenerative design, which I'm specialising in. And they suggested it would be a great idea to show the exhibition in two parts, in which the site could be used as an exploratory type of laboratory to see how we could, how the research develops, which will be in the second exhibition.
So sort of using the space as something to explore art and science at the same time, right?
Definitely, specifically art, technology, organisms. How I'm working a lot with microalgae and various types of species, and a lot of the work I had done earlier was with bacteriography, with bacteria, to see how you could embed bacteria into an inanimate object. And that was the precursor for me experimenting further, I would like to use the term working with microalgae rather than it the other way around.
So we have a lot of pieces, sculpture, photography, and if you had to pick a particular piece that is your favorite or very important piece in the exhibition, which one would that be?
I think specifically my favorite piece I would love to say is the one I did of Mark Baldwin, OBE, who was the creative director of the Ram Dance Company. And it's a very important piece for me because it was a sculpture that I started working with photogrammetry, created a whole new technique, developed and enhanced a technique of photogrammetry to create new types of sculptures which could be further used in maybe on the moon or Mars, if we are going to fabricate robots. So I did actually work with robots and a whole team at UCL at BMade, which was excellent, and I was really excited about it.
And this piece actually has living algae in it as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a borosilicate glass mask system, who I've collaborated with Ian Pearson to make the wonderful glass piece I designed, and then it actually allows the organism to live with the human in a device.
Yeah. Wonderful, it sounds really exciting. And how do you define a critical posthuman practice in a nutshell? So this is obviously a term that is connected to the exhibition very much.
So critical posthuman practice, for me, in the simplest terms, posthuman means human after the human. So the way I see it is a philosophical and theoretical and practice-led vision of how we can live in the future. So critically, we do need to enhance the human body and enhance ways of living, but it seems to be a mutually beneficial system, which I call altruism. So altruistically, how we can live and work with species. So the furtherance of both the human and the non-human species can work together.
So that's in response to changes in the environment. And
yes.
Changes in the world that we live in, isn't it?
It's a lot to do with environmental changes. There has been a lot to do with extreme climate change. However, I like to say the environment is changing further and further, and we do not really know how it's going to be in the future. So in a sense, I'm looking at specifically at the Moon and Mars as potentially worst case scenarios, and how that can reflect back to Earth as well.
And your previous work in photography, and obviously working with lots of people to create photography, how does that come into the exhibition and your work that you're doing at the moment?
Well, the photography, I think the way I see it, it allows you to portray a vision. And with that vision, you can imagine various futures. And a lot of the work that I'd done previously was like fashion, and it still is fashion. So fashion for me, it's a way of fashioning the body in a different sense. So in the way, I believe that posthuman bodying is a way of fashioning the body, the human after the human, and a newer body that we can be very comfortable with and work with. And bodying can also be described as bodying for not just the human body, but the living species body. That's why I suggest the term posthuman bodying.
So it's a lot about using your existing knowledge, visualizing through photographies, through visual mechanisms, what the science can look like in the future as well, isn't it?
Definitely, and working with newer techniques with photography, like I mentioned earlier, using photogrammetry, which was a very eye-opening thing for me, which I just thought, oh my God, there's so much you can do with photogrammetry. Specifically, I had this big fight with robots, but now I think, working with robots and working with various types of futures that can make things easier, maybe for the human and the non-human, why not?
And can you suggest a way to explore the exhibition? Is there a place to start? Anything that we should, as a visitor, pay particular attention to?
So the exhibition was curated in a sense that you have my slightly previous work aligned with the newer work, which is to do with the organisms. So there's a lot to look at in sense of sculptures. There's a big back methodology story to each piece, and also bacteriography, how you can see the symbiosis of, which I call sympoiesis, which is a term used by a fantastic writer called Donna Haraway, and philosopher and scientist. So it's a good way to kind of open your eyes at looking at new ways of developing future strategies for the human and non-human without being too grandiose. I think it's really important that there are suggestive ways that open discussions. I think the exhibition can be used to open discussions of how we can improve the environment, better lives, sustainable practice, and regenerative futures, which I think is a really big thing that we need to think about now. We have a lot of young people who are also, you have like groups like Extinction Rebellion. I think we need to be a bit more ecologically aware of how we can have pertinent futures, because it is for the children really, and for the future children. So the human becomes the post-human, and through bodying with various species, I think we can do very well.
And that is perfectly going into my next question, which is, for the future, in terms of your contribution to the field, what is next?
So I would like to take this exhibition further. So this was the beginning, and it is the beginning of further research, working with microalgae, maybe into a further research strategy. Also, I think the future, working a lot with, space. How do we look at space, and looking at, Mars, and looking at the moon, and also asteroid 16 Psyche, how we can think of future interplanetary futures without being too kind of grandiose. I use that word again because I think it's inevitable that we will be traveling to various planets around the solar system and maybe further on. However, we also need to make sure that we have to think firmly, keep our feet firmly on Earth, and try and resolve situations that we have here. And caring for each other, caring for various species will enable us to have better futures.
Thank you very much, Ram.
Thank you very much, Diane.
Don't forget to keep updated through the Protagonist magazine and MOCA Gallery websites and social media. the links to which you can find below, about upcoming panel discussions and events in line with the exhibition.